Hey, it is good to talk to you guys. It has been a while, and man, I have been on a journey. It is a unique journey, and so I'm just going to give you an update. Friends, others, I've had this great opportunity to be here with Tony, be here with Eric, and they got a camera. And I said, let's just do it. Just talk about this part of the journey of my life, update. And you'll understand why. So let me just share kind of the theme of what I'm going to talk to you about is that there's a wondrous entrance into the yellow house. And I'll talk about the yellow house here in a minute. You know, my life has been about loving God, loving my family, about building business. There's been, it's all about the heart, knowing the heart of God. And so I have really been instructed by the Lord, started when I was 12, about Him doing a unique work in our day. That He had hope for cities and nations. He had hope for people groups. He had hope for us, and that we were living under misery Christianity. And so He showed me through this dream that He was going to build out in our hour now the Hope Reformation. And Reformation really just speaks of Psalm 67, how God's heart and His face would be seen. Not just His general presence, but His face would be seen in our cities and our nations, many of them, and in many of the mountains. And His ways would be known and loved. And there's nothing like God's ways. They're pleasant, and they're peaceable, and they're pure, and people are delighted, and radiant hope is filled in those ways. So He shared about how cities would have different distinctives, where they would reflect the nature of God, and showed about radiant cities of hope, how the youth, the children would be cared for well, and the elderly, and the profound contribution they would have, and how benevolence would reign. And so showed through the years those realities, and how these hope reformers would come forth, and how they would build out these hope pillars. Well, in my own life, I had some dreams and just series of discussions with God that I journaled, where I was intent on building out the Hope Reformation pillar. But He kept trying to move me to the Hope Healing pillar. There was 5 pillars to the Hope Reformation, and He spoke, and He said the reformers will have to be healed. They'll have to go through this wholeness process. They'll have to go through these upgrades in order for them to be able to build out the Hope Reformation. So He shared under the present pressures, which I was having deep challenge with, that we would need to go through this hope healing, hope wholeness program, that we might be able to handle the present pressures and then the future pressures as we stepped into reform, that we have the equipment, the new tools, and He described about those. But what He showed me was profound and wonderful, and it really applied to my life first. And He had said to me, if you get healed, everybody gets healed. And I don't understand all that, but He explained it more, which I'll unpack for you a little. But He said, I desire you to deal with the fissures in your life. And He said, everybody has them. I said, am I that messed up? Is there that much wrong with me? And He said, no, there's that much right with you if you go through this process. It takes great courage, great stamina. It takes a great man to go through the process of facing weaknesses, celebrating them, and going for them with God to grow into the man that He's called me to be and you to be. It's not about me being a great man, but just the truth of, He said, many haven't. Many of the leaders or others have drawn back versus face the challenges and face their own stuff and grow into God's strength in their area of weakness. And He really showed me 3 fissures about 7 years ago in my life. And it was a fissure of self-strength. And that has caused such a drivenness in my life. I've been hyper-vigilant about the prophetic, been hyper-vigilant in my work. It's caused me not to be present, caused me to be always activated, visionary in the future, because I always got a plan. I always got to take things into my own hand. It's always layers and levels, because I hope in God on certain levels, but this place where I get off the lifeguard stand and God gets on and I give him, everything, I lay everything on the altar. Well, that was a fissure that I had to have dealt with, and he is dealing with me on it. And it's beautiful, and again, it's a process. But he said you had to go into this hope healing place and into this wholeness program. And again, it was an upgrade, and he said it's beautiful. Then he spoke about the second fissure, and I've shared about this before, but the fissure of rejection. Just I left home at a young age, and some of those core attachments weren't developed well, and so it would be easy for me to get in a wrestler mode, where I just, if I, was in situations where I didn't feel loved, then I would not, I'd have the I don't care spirit. And he said, you can't not care. You gotta love well when you're not loved well. And you gotta hope in those even when they don't hope in you. And it's not easy for the way I've been wired and the pains I've gone through and the traumas I've gone through. But he's sharing with me that I'm gonna have to go into this yellow house, which I'm gonna open up here in a moment, where these fissures would be cared for. He said, I just won't be a caretaker of you. I'll be a carer of you. I won't just look after you, I'll look at you. I won't just fix you. I'm not about fixing you. I'm about celebrating you. I'm one that doesn't want to look after you, I want to look at you. And I want to celebrate your uniqueness. And I want to look at your gift of imperfections. And I want you to understand, if you're okay with me, you're okay. It's just now I'm going to upgrade you. And so there really was tied in for me with the rejection, a lot of shame, like it should be something that I wasn't. And then that compounds itself. And he shared with me through these fissures, the enemy and my own band had tried to make me the Roman 7 man, where I'm always wrestling with the rights and the wrongs. And he said, you're just to be way beyond that. Believe you're perfect in my sight. It takes a heart of innocence to believe that. And he said, then you can face anything and grow because you're already secure in my arms. And I first comfort you, Psalm 73. Then I counsel you, then I guide you into glory. And I had treated myself with a strong accountability model, a behavior modification, been a wrestler, and I tried to just grow into his desired outcome of Bob Hartley that way. And he said, I'll never come through that. It'll come through knowing that you're celebrated, knowing that you're loved, knowing that you're cared for. Then when you know I'm holding your hand, then you can walk with me into these upgrades. And he said, it won't be misery, but it'll be play therapy. It'll be a joyful growth. And many have looked at the hope healing process or hope wholeness process and say, I don't want to go there. I don't want to rehash traumas. I don't want to rehash my weaknesses. Where there's this high because it hurts and you feel like, that you're going to be, harshness is going to come. Where he's the exact opposite. Kindness comes, care comes. And so he showed me, the third fissure that he showed me was negation. And just through my history and my heritage, negation is when something good happens, the enemy negates it. And so you don't celebrate the day-to-day victories. You're just looking for this ultimate climatic reality. And then I've had even those happen where major changes have happened and you don't see God's goodness in the land of the living and celebrate it. The enemy gets to negate it. And it's always the more spirit, more and more and more. Like it talks about Proverbs, a leech has two sisters, more and more, take, and give and give. And so this reality in my life, he said, I'm going to take you into this yellow house. And I started to wonder, what is this yellow house? And it's, again, a series of dreams. And he says, it's a friendship house, started to describe it to me. It has different rooms that I want to take you through. And all were to go through the yellow house in different rooms to where they were all brought into this whole hope healing, hope wholeness upgrade process. So he said the solutions to the fissures, the solutions to getting the upgraded tools as a reformer, he said, are in the yellow house. He said these needed tools. And again, I kept going back and saying, is there something wrong with me? Is there a reason why I have to go through the yellow house and the hope healing process? Because there were things I didn't want to face. And yellow house was a grief room, and I sure didn't want to go there. And he showed me grief and grieving, doing it with hope is one of the greatest ways to identify with his heart and what he feels. And it's one of the greatest forms of love is to identify with the pains of another and the pains that you caused another. And I said, I love that. I'll go there then. I want to see that. I want to feel that. I want to taste that. As long as you're holding my hand. And there were other rooms in this house. And I'll come back and we're going to share, a room to this, a house, a room at a time. But he started to speak to me about the house. And then it was pretty profound how he led me to start to go on the journey through the yellow house. But again, I just can't overemphasize, because I believe it applies to all of us, maybe more to me, that I'd say, is something wrong with me? And he said, again, I'm not fixing you, I'm celebrating you. He said, you got to see this, and if you're okay with me, then you're okay. And as I said earlier, he just would repeat that theme, because there'd be often that I'd say, oh gosh, I just messed up. And he said, no, again, if you get healed, they all get healed. It takes great courage, great stamina to grow into being a new man at 57. And so I invite the process. And so about 4 months ago, I had a dream, and he said, I'm really happy we're going to go on this journey together. And I can see the yellow house off in the distance. And it was first like a shack, and I've heard about the book where somebody dealt with their trauma in a shack, and then it became like a yellow house. And so I had the same kind of feeling that it was not only the trauma, but the tools and the upgrades. And he said, I'm really excited we're going to go on this journey together. And I thought, what journey? And then he said, sometimes you have to leave to find hope. Sometimes you have to change your present circumstances to just get out of the old operating system I was in to find hope. And then he said, you picked up burdens I never told you to pick up. And he said, I just want to bring you into joy, and I want to bring you into play therapy, and I want to talk to you about your heart, and this is all about you getting a bigger heart. And so he said, it's not a spanking, it's an upgrade. And he said, in your love for me, he said, you're going to see me and hear me in ways you never have, which is happening. He said, your love for people is so in the future that I couldn't attune to people in the present and listen and hear them. And he said, you love people. Your analytical side kicked in, your visionary side kicked in, your revelatory side kicked in to such a level that it shuts down your relational circuits. It's impossible to be in that zone. Brain science shows that. For you to always be strategic and thinking out ahead, and for you to be present and be relational. And he said, you stared into my revelatory side, and I told you to cover and protect your eyes and just to peer into my relational side, because you got to know the sympathetic man, Christ Jesus, and the covenant of mercy first. A revelation will blow the circuits of your mind if you just become a machine versus a man. And a bubblegum machine. And I'm not, I'm a man. And so he said, you'll get an upgrade on that. And I cried. I said, I want to love people. I want to be present with people in a way that I haven't been able to be. But I thought it was my assignment. And it wasn't. I was moving out of assignment versus relationship. And he wanted to change that. And he wanted to bring me into the yellow house, which means the friendship house. Over the front door, it had a couple of scriptures. John 12. And that's where Jesus went before he died. He just wanted to be with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. He just wanted to be with his friends. He could have went revelatory, strategic with his disciples. No, I just want to be with my friends. I just want to enjoy their company. And he had over the front door of this yellow house, Proverbs 17:17. It says, friend is a friend at all times. And you got to know that you have friends at all times, no matter what, that they won't distance themselves, but they'll connect and they'll walk through life with understanding with you and you with them. And he said, I'm going to be a friend through adversity. And that's the last part of that verse, a brother through adversity. I'm going to take you through the past, present, future traumas of your life. I don't know if all of them, but I'm going to show you how I'm there and I care. And I'm going to upgrade you and upgrade your love so that you're not self-focused just trying to get through your own pain. but that there's great grace in your life in this yellow house. So he said, I'm going to give you an upgrade of love for life, that you'll appreciate life, living in the present, have miracles. See the miracles in what people call the mundane, just the beauty of the day. And I've had a hard time, when you're in that analytical zone, visionary zone, it says you get 27% peripheral vision. All you can see is tunnel vision, just the goal. And I was focused that way. And he said, no, you're going to celebrate life. Life is a gift. And he said, and then you're going to celebrate the planet. You're going to see the goodness of me and the land of the living across the planet. And I'm going to love what he loves. And so then he said in the yellow house, he would move me into those upgrades. And he said, now your change will come out in the open. And he said, your change will come in the light. For some, it's to be private. They're in a cocoon, and they come out as a butterfly. For me, I'm to share, but I'm going to open the book of my heart to his eyes, to others, and it says, David said he put the pieces of the puzzle of my life together, and he made it perfect. And so I believe that I'm just to share with you, I know I am, about the yellow house and going through that and this new type of hope, healing, wholeness process that it's, again, play therapy. It's an invitation. It's an upgrade. It's not a spanking. So he led me to the door of the house, and he talked to me about the yellow house. He said it's a joyful house. It's a house of friendship. It's a house of empowerment. It's a house of love and forgiveness. It's a house of healing. It's a playful house. He said it's not a house of heaviness. He said it's not a house of shame or humiliation or judgment, condemnation, cynicism. It's a house of great mercy and encouragement, a house with great tools to build out a reformer's heart and life. And he said, this would really be a wonderful journey, and I believe we all are invited on this journey together to go through the yellow house. And he shared that it was the reformer's finishing school, where we would get the tools to be that good man or woman, Proverbs 14:14, that's satisfied from within and not moved by the circumstances, but be able to keep reformation going through this secure attachment with God and this confidence in him, and to be tooled up on a different level to move nations and others versus be moved by them. So I opened the door to the yellow house. And when I grabbed that door, it had on the door myrrh. And myrrh identifies identifies death. So I thought it would be death to go into the yellow house. But he really let me know as I opened the door that it'd be death to those things that had hurt me and that I'd been hurtful from, and that was beautiful. I opened the door to this yellow house, and it was a garden of great beauty and great growth. So I will share with you part 2 on just this journey through the yellow house and about the first room. God bless you as we go on this journey together.